Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Rage video where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, your master of reality, your child of the bespoken, welcome to the society of the antisocial as we prepare once again, ladies and gentlemen, to take a look at Machine Head. Right. Yep, cool,
Okay.
got it.
Super. So, how are you? You all right?
I'm doing great, Pally. I'm absolutely ecstatic now to finally have gotten this working because I'm now utterly convinced. It would be sort of like easier for me to like try and do this on my computer, but the problem is that it's sort of there's problems getting in the way. But I can work around that. That's the one of the great advantages of the modern technological age is that people are very, very accessible. People are very, very mobile, and people are very, very easy to get around certain situations that should not even exist in the first place. But that's just how that is. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. And I'm glad you made it. You're here. So
Yes, indeed.
technology. This is the beauty of technology. It should work, but sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, it kind of keeps you on your toes all the time, doesn't it?
Oh, you're not wrong there, my friend. You're not wrong there. So, I suggest let's get straight down to it. So, it's a great pleasure to be here on Power Ace Radio, Pally. And just before we go any further, I should, because quite a number of things happened yesterday that made me feel like maybe this was somewhat destined, I suppose is the right word to say it, is because I applied for an internship. I'll keep this as brief as possible, but basically, there's people that want to have an interview with me on Monday over Zoom as well. So hopefully I'll be able to get this sorted for then. And if all goes according to plan, I'll be on a 6-week internship in Islington, which is kind of useful because I know you guys are set up at the Old Kent Road, if I'm not mistaken.
We're actually in Tunbridge Wells.
Oh, Tunbridge Wells. Oh, that's even better. Nothing good, not knocking the Old Kent Road or anything like that. I think it's more than deserving a spot on the Monopoly board, even if it's the cheapest place you can get. But who am I to judge?
Before we actually go too far, let's get you to actually introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, sure. Would it be all right if I maybe use my alias, or would you prefer me to just go with whatever feels right?
Well, the floor is all yours. So
okay. Good evening there, Power Ace Radio. My name is James Skur. I'm actually what's referred to as a touchpoint cleaner. I work at a job centre in the northeast of England. It's sort of gotten me through quite a lot of the pandemic because part of my job is to keep the public and the workers inside the job centre safe from the perils of the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, maybe this is something you've heard maybe for the 100th time today, but even though people argue about the relaxation of COVID and they think that the whole thing is because it's not being reported about as much, it's very much still real, my friends. It's very much still real. So I would say take precautions, yes, because you never know if you're going to get it next. Nobody ever knows for certain because it's one of those things, keep safe, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the biggest thing. Other people will keep you safe. You should be able to do your best to keep them safe. So I suppose that's my little spiel about COVID over with. It's one of those things I may as well get out there if I'm going to be doing this on radio anyway.
No, absolutely. No, that's great. Great information for the viewers out here. COVID is real, and it's still out there. And I think one of the best things the Prime Minister said was that we just have to learn to live with it. That doesn't mean
you're not wrong. You're not wrong there, Pally. I mean, I'm not in any way. I'm not. I mean, I'm no doctor or no nurse, but you don't need to be to understand like very simple things about how the virus works and all the rest of it. But let's move on. I think it's one thing when you've heard about this for the last 2 years. It's another to hear about it for another 5 or 20 years or whatever it needs to be.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing that I want to ask you about is what is it, raging reality?
Oh yes, of course. In fact, you know, I'll tell you what. I'll do you one better there, Paddy, because I want to actually
Okay.
pull up because I wrote a very extensive sort of like explanation, detailed sort of like account by ways of explanation as to what raging reality is. But I suppose for the people at home, I may as well explain in very simplistic terms before we get into like the nitty gritty stuff exactly what raging reality is. It started off as a YouTube channel I created as far back as July 22nd, 2018. And the reason why I wanted to make it is because I kind of fell in love with a lot of channels that were discovering likes of heavy metal for the very first time. I was very into guys like Alex Hefner or King KTF or No Life Shack, who grew kind of it's a very interesting story about how all these channels sort of grew and then stopped and then just moved on to other things while they've been around. But the thing that caught my eye is that, you know what? Those guys were very open to it and people were very open to listen to them. So it should make perfect sense that I should throw my proverbial hat into the ring. And I've been doing it to this very day. Now, with that being said, there's been a few drawbacks here and there. For one, back in August 14th of 2020, because at this point I had made roughly something equating to maybe 6 or 7 channels at this point, and through reasons that it's a very long story about all this, but bands were like getting in touch with me because they wanted me to do shout outs, they wanted to do like reactions to their stuff, and in a very strange sort of double cross act, it kind of resulted in all of my videos being taken down. But with that being said, I spent what can only best be described as the entirety of the year of 2021 making videos behind the scenes and then uploading every single one of them on January 1st of this year in what was I called Ragecon 2, sort of like a convention, like a special event that's designed to just bring some of the very best of people back to this channel, especially because I find well there are a lot of people that have come back and a lot of people who sort of suspected about what happened. But I think the really interesting part about all of this is that, well, exactly what it sort of did for this entire, how it changed the way I've decided to make videos. It's just, I've sort of kept a lot of the styles my own, because on a lot of my videos I've kept the attire of my giant leather jacket, my single shaded visor. Which I'll tell you what,
yep, that's the one.
That is honestly, you'll be very, very surprised about how powerful clothes are, my friend, because these things make me feel like a very, very different person. I could say things that I probably wouldn't say in everyday conversation. I feel like I'm more open, I'm more direct. I can be those sort of things because I've become this sort of the real. It's like the real me inside of me has sort of come to life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Which sort
absolutely.
of comes on.
And you know, while you've got that on,
Oh yes.
so you have the, you know, your intro with the hand.
Oh yeah.
Right. Just
Okay.
show some of that, so the viewers
Okay.
know what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you what. I'll do you one better, my friend. Watch this. I'll get the actual. You know, with the weather getting better and with like the weather getting better all the time and that, I haven't actually had to wear my jacket for the best part of 6 days. But I only ever wear this thing for my videos, and because I basically make all my videos at night, this is the only time to like actually put it on, and it wouldn't look too stupid. But here it goes. Let me see if I could just get the camera so that like it could get like a better view for the benefit of those watching at home. So here's how the intro begins. It's me looking like side on to the camera and then going. Can you hear me all right, Pally? Because I'm gonna have to sort of like keep my microphone like dangled a bit.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Okay. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Rage video, where tonight, ladies and gentlemen, your master of reality, your child of the bespoken, welcome to the society of the antisocial, as we prepare once again, ladies and gentlemen, to take a look at Machine Head. Now, you may remember what I always said when I came to stuff like, oh God, what was it called now? It must have been the more things change, but the more things stay the same. Now, what absolutely captivated me about that entire album was not just how rough it was, not just because of how raw it was, not just because of the different styles of passive aggressiveness you got from just about every single corner. It was so passive aggressive. It would make people like Phil Anselmo blush, because I reckon this is probably even more preferable than something like Pantera. And don't get me wrong, I love Pantera like you wouldn't believe. But Machine Head, it's very reminiscent, even though it goes all the way back to the late 80s, and The More Things Change came out in 97. It paved the way, in my opinion, for the sort of stuff that I took for granted, the sort of things I was listening to 10 years ago. The rise of nu metal, the rise of guys like 3 Days Grace, Disturbed, Limp Bizkit, Soil, My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy. Those sort of... Blink-182, to maybe a lesser extent, but it's sort of distributed and elaborated on the sort of ways that bands in metal were starting to like evolve, and they were starting to change. The advent of nu metal meant it was going to be new. And it wasn't just a stylistic change by spelling new N-U as opposed to N-E-U. But then again, N-U, Newcastle United. What can I say? It's where I came from. It kind of made perfect sense in a way. Now, with that all being said and done, I've absolutely, for the very longest time, wanted to go back to sort of a little bit further ahead in time. So what we've decided to do today, ladies and gentlemen, is sort of go back to maybe one of those groups that sort of, they were present, but I don't particularly think they get like enough mention for those who absolutely love nu metal as much as I did, and that is Saliva. And I've talked about Saliva like a couple of times, and they're very similar to likes of Shadows Fall. But what makes Saliva stand out, certainly for my initial impressions, is that, oh, that's actually, you know what, I've stumped myself on this one, because the biggest thing I could absolutely say is that, well, the guy in Shadows Fall, the one who has hair probably longer than his entire length of his body, Shadows Fall has a very, it's a very, almost like a very cult-like rhythm. You listen to Shadows Fall in the same way you want to feel like you've got something to live for, like you want to give a salute or you want to march into battle. Saliva is a lot more, it's kind of not like that, but at the same time, it makes you want to be very, very proactive. It fills you with energy. It fills you with a great deal of purpose. And I think it says something about the music scene, or certainly the way that maybe people like you and me take a look at music. But stuff like that, when you can actually put into words exactly how music can make you feel and what it makes you want to do afterwards, that, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is the most important thing. Now, in general terms, that is absolutely how I would always present my videos. But every now and then, and maybe the lighting doesn't exactly do any favors, I actually did all of that with my eyes closed. But the benefit of doing something like that is that I would like sit out in the middle of the room, and it feels as if like all my walls, all the space here is sort of like it's stretched out for miles ahead. I feel like I was like sitting in the room completely on my own, and there was no life for miles and miles around. I was basically the biggest person for miles, and that is a very, very, very strange feeling. Some of the absolute best moments I can honestly say, Pally, and please feel free to let me know if I've gone on for too long, is that I've been able to, is when you feel big, is when honestly you could say you feel big, if that makes sense. I've had numerous times in my life where I've just sort of like felt like for some reason I've grown, and if I look down, I would see, I couldn't even see my feet because there were so many miles like down below. But that, ladies, and maybe even to the people listening right now, I don't even know who I know would listen to something like that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you don't quite realize exactly what you can do when you put your mind to it. And going back to what I was saying is about like becoming a second person, becoming something a little bit more than just yourself, is exactly when you just talk and just words come out. Very rarely do I ever do videos where I'm actually scripted. I'm unscripted. I am a caged animal that's just been let off his leash. You can't stop that. But that's true though. You can't stop someone who is on a roll because why would you? Why would you want to stop somebody who doesn't need to be stopped?
That's it. You just gotta let it play out. That's the way. Otherwise, you might get the beginning of the story, but actually you don't get the story. So
Oh,
so while we're actually here, let me go to my kind of before we forget about it. Where are the places to go and get all your stuff? So when you release new stuff, I know at the moment one of the things I saw was that you're releasing, I don't know how many videos you wanted to release in 660 something days left.
Oh, so, yes. Would you like me to explain this? Because I think you're going to find this. Okay. The idea behind Ragecon 2 initially is that it was going to be the way I do like Ragecon is the first one was kind of like me testing the waters. So I'd released about 500 videos over the course of about 2 weeks. And it was specifically to draw as much people. It was the equivalent of like building a net so big, it was going to at least capture maybe one whale and thousands of other little critters all over the ocean floor. Ragecon 2 was supposed to be, well, it really was sort of even bigger than this. I made even more videos, but I was sort of a little bit smart about how I distributed them. I released one video a day for the last 3 months, and usually on a good day, I could make at most 4 videos in about 2.5 hours. That means for 4 days ahead, I would have videos ready and they'll be ready to be shipped out. It's doing things basically en masse. I mean, right now, what were we on now? The 21st of April. I've got enough videos in reserve to get me through until the beginning of July. And what's good about this is that when Ragecon 3 comes out in about, I think it's 92 weeks and 6 days to go, because it's taking place on my 26th birthday, the 31st of January, 2024. Because if this trend continues, I could make enough videos to last me until 10 years' time. And when Ragecon 3 comes about, because I suppose subconsciously, I didn't want to really like make Ragecon into sort of like an annual thing. What I wanted to do was make it into an event that was always special, one that was always bigger than the one that came before. Because once I did it like that, it would make it very, very interesting to see how I could topple myself. How exactly could I astound people? And now, in general terms, I don't really think people are that like interested either way. I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe in 10 years' time when I mean, how many subscribers am I on right now? Like 3,780. I reckon about either 10 years' time, I'll have exactly 1 0 on the end of that, or maybe 7 zeros on the end of it. I honestly could not tell you, because the entire purpose of why I chose the name Raging Reality in the first place is that the reality is that there is always something out there to work towards. There is always something out there in this world that is there to give you a sense of purpose. And I will level with you. I think I wrote something down in my community section as well. I'll have to look deep, because I'm absolutely certain where on earth did I write this? I don't think it's anyway. But the idea is that it's all right. It just says I was like 20% power. Okay. So, well, let me just go for this one more time. Oh, okay, here it is. I'll tell you what. I'll go over all of this. Do you want me to read out the entire section? Because I feel like this is going to be one I kind of need to say word for word, because this is honestly what the whole point of all of this is.
Yeah, where can people go and see this first? Where is the place? What's the handle on your YouTube?
Oh yes, it's YouTube / Raging Reality with 2 capital R's. And if you go down to the community section, it will be accompanied by a big picture that says Ragecon 3 01012024.
Okay.
So let me just start from. I'll get to the second part. But then again, I go into a lot of like hyperbole as well. The Argonaut of the astronomical, the whimsical whisperer of the wind. I get excited by things like alliteration. I did like English lit at A-level, and that sort of thing never ever left my side. That's what I can say about that. Okay, so here is the full extract, because this is going to be the first time I've actually had to say this out loud, but that might make it a bit more. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put my shades on right now. I feel like it feels right doing this way. Okay. Never before have I felt so brave in calling myself these names, because for the first time in a very long time, I believe I am as important as I think I am. Self-confidence, ladies and gentlemen, don't ever sell yourself short. Being a good person is only something that other people can say about you. That is only half the story. What is it that you can say about you? What do you think of yourself? Here is what I think of myself. I think that my ambitions, skills, and character are something I have still yet to show. I have merely only planted my seed in maybe not the greatest ground of dirt. That is irrelevant, however. I do not hold too much weight on where I have come from, but what I can become because of myself. It is all too foolish to blame my misfortunes on my past. You don't ever look forward to the past and dread the future. The sort of people who do that can never be happy for anything. They only look at the worst in life just to have something to grumble, not talk, grumble about. I mentioned before how I met a woman last July who used to go out with Richie Blackmore from Judas Priest and was a big fan of the band Soil. She was one of the few women, no, people I have met in the last 2 years where I was free to be exactly who I chose to be. I said things that made her look at me with interest. We drank in 2 different pubs that afternoon. We went to music shops and examined bass guitars. I met another woman who told me that she was impressed by telling her who I was and what I thought of her cats. I've known people who were avid supporters of my work and people who appreciated me for who I was. Strange the affection you can have for a stranger. They know nothing about you, and you can be anything that you want to be. Anyone who thinks that hasn't changed me is living in a dream world. Ragecon has always, to me, been a sort of special event of mine, because it should only occur at times, very particular times, when it's time to move on. I chose the name because I saw it as something of a convention, a special one-of-a-kind event that brings the best people together. Ragecon 1 was a very spontaneous event that came out of nowhere and drew a very decent reception. When all was said and done, Ragecon 2, which was not only my grand return to YouTube, but the chance to really see if I had what it took to not only deserve to return, but expand upon my style and adopt my other talents to the forefront, just to see what would happen. Whether I was accepted or not seemed irrelevant. What was important was that they existed. As long as I exist, I still have a chance. It is only when the sands of time run low does it become clear that if in the end I will go quietly into the night, or will I go with grief and anguish weighing my soul down like an anchor, dragged by the ghosts of those who, like me, never saw how green their own grass was. Envy and jealousy are among some of the worst evils alive today, of just how to understand really who we are. We have all been there when we see people who are perhaps richer, happier, successful, or simply better off than us. We are envious of them because it stems from the simple theory of, if they can have it, then why can't we have it? You see the kind of trouble that envy causes? Jealousy, in my opinion, is a little bit different. To me, jealousy is a bit of a more primordial form of envy. It is when we are envious of others without ever really knowing why. It is like a physical discomfort, where you feel like you can explain yourself, but you cannot. It is perhaps an evil feeling, a feeling of somebody being favored more than you, by someone else, by a higher authority who has decided they are worth more by an even higher being. whilst you are not even worth being mentioned. That is a different matter. And people who are jealous and envious almost always let it boil over in horrid and toxic ways. I have been told that it is a bad idea to do things out of revenge, as opposed to love, but at the same time, the things I do have been out of love and passion. Has that never been obvious before? I'm not really asking for any sort of response, but they are always appreciated. They mean more than money at times. Money is a great motivator to make people do things that they don't really want to do. But passion is something that has no price tag. You can't put a price on something that's special. You can't pay me enough to say the things I always want to say and or do. You cannot put a price on something that is remarkably special to you. And what is so special about Ragecon 3 is that this is going to be the biggest one ever. And in order for me to let that happen, I have to do things nobody has ever done or seen. It could be for all sorts of things. I like to imagine the whole raging reality, not so much as a brand, but more of an idea. The idea of conquering the most impossible odds, meaning you are challenging the real world with the things that exist only in the real world. Suppression, indignity, depression, hatred, and blind spite. The list goes on, but the principles stay the same. You are raging against reality itself. Many a true word spoken in jest. Yeah, who says I'm not cultured? Billy Shakespeare meet Jimmy Franksker, both great artists whose works will live on forever. Finally, there is this to be said about the main event itself. It may sound as though I am downplaying a very significant event in my life, my XXV anniversary, my 25th anniversary of this earth. But don't be surprised when I say that I have some very special surprises in store. But what is my raging reality? What is it that I am really fighting against? What is it that I want to do about it? Dying with a grim reality that I will pass on all of my words and actions will be forgotten is among my initial fears. Nobody wants to be forgotten. Nobody wants to be left behind. Nobody really wants to think about that because the irony is that you will not be here to see if you are proven right or wrong. The fear of not knowing. One of the beliefs is that I should leave this earth in a better state than when I first came here. With that being said, time will tell if I am right or not, or if I will ever know or ever not know. I will know, however, if I am important enough to be preserved in memory. That is my raging reality.
Wow.
And that's all I got to say about that, because I think that just about explains more or less everything, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, you definitely you covered every ground, and wow, that is a really beautiful piece. I will have to go back and reread that, you know, because that is a full on piece, and it talks about so many different bits. I really like the bit about, you know, being envious, and you know, yeah, you did say about, okay, you know, about yourself, yeah, do the best that you can do, be yourself. But again, you also touch on how you look at others, you know. Sometimes you think, oh, that person, oh, why are they doing that? Why are they getting that special attention? Why they, yeah. But sometimes it's, yeah, just envy that you don't even know you're doing. You know? But
sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, we kind of need to wrap up. I feel like this conversation, we need a longer session for it. You know,
I would sort of wouldn't mind perhaps a longer session. You see, the interesting thing there, and maybe some of your listeners may be hearing in on this, is that it goes far beyond just talking about music with me. Music has sort of like been the sort of thing that's made me come out of my shell a little bit. It goes far beyond this. And let me tell you something right now. I wrote, first off, I wrote all of that myself because I think like that kind of, because that's what I was going through. And that was honestly what I felt like I had to say. But I suppose if it's of any interest whatsoever, people have commented a few times before about my skills at oration, but also about maybe certain other things involved in my writing that perhaps maybe your viewers might be interested in hearing, because I have so much to give and there's so many ways I can give it. And with all that being said and done, I think I think, you know what, I'm gonna, you know what, I'll practice as I preach. We need more people like me, more people who, for better or worse, will say it as they want to say it, not because of pressure, not because of demand, not because of the need. But I'll tell you something right now, Pally, just so we can wrap this up in a very, very in a sort of a grand sort of way. My dad told me that there is at least one person of every single generation who must rise above the rest. And in a very, very strange way, I'm going to be that one. I am going to be the anti-social society. I am going to be the master of reality. I am going to be the generation of the one above the rest.
Wow, that is.
How does that sound?
That's a powerful closure. Your dad is a very wise person, and you know, I don't think there's any better advice you could give your son, really. You know,
I seem pretty confident in that already.
And I'm glad you took that advice, and you know, we'll be definitely there watching. And as I said before, we definitely need to come back for another session of this. I think we talked about the rage, and now we need to actually find out more about who you are and get some more out of you. I know we did get a little bit. No, we need to definitely see you in another session, most definitely.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much there, Pally. And I certainly hope that the viewers of Power Ace Radio have certainly learned maybe a few things tonight, because I think I'll tell you what, if we do get the chance to do this again, I certainly do not doubt we will. But I think I'll have to somehow topple myself again in our next interview. Maybe I could go into like things that we could like build up on certain things that I said the last time, and all sorts of things. This could go a good number of places.
No, absolutely. I feel even in this particular interview, when the viewers hear it and we hear feedback, there will be a lot of things they want you to actually elaborate on, or you know, they want to hear more of this, or they want to hear more of that. I'm looking forward to the engagement. So
if they want to pose questions, they're more than happy to. I've got a lot of time in the world to answer questions if it comes to that.
That is awesome to hear. But yeah, well, until we meet again, and it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, and good luck to the nearest future until we see you again.
Good luck to you too, Pally. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Pally.
Thanks. Bye.